to learn how to use a gun. 1 week training, take this course just like you get a driver's license. Go do it, guys. That's my...
Not to condemn all of the actions of those of the Muslim faith because of the actions of a few.
Assault weapons do not belong on our streets. An assault weapon was used in Las Vegas to kill 60 people.
To propose regulations to ban all devices that turn legal weapons into machine guns.
Under the new rule, these firearm owners will be required to obtain special registration, surrender or destroy their brace.
On September 1st, Nebraska became the 27th state to allow permitless carry of firearms. However, the mayor of Omaha, Nebraska, responded by signing an executive order that bans concealed carry on any city-owned or leased property, including parks, libraries, public facilities, city hall, and community centers. This order also allows private business owners to prohibit concealed carry on their premises. Florida legislature approves permitless concealed carry bill. Floridians will be able to carry concealed guns without a permit under a bill the legislature sent to Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. The governor, who is considering a presidential run, has said the issue is one of his priorities. In a 27-13 vote, the Senate passed a bill to eliminate concealed weapons permits, allowing gun owners to carry firearms in the state without the previously required license and training. Republican leaders like Governor Ron DeSantis have expressed support for the idea, which indicates the bill should not have a problem passing in a legislature with a GOP supermajority. Democrats, however, have argued that the bill would make Florida, a state with a history of horrific mass shootings, less safe. While supporters are calling the bill constitutional carry, critics have dubbed it untrained carry.
This concept about me being able to go buy a gun, same day go home with a gun, without any kind of training, I think that's not smart.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Criminals, miscreants will always get their hands on guns.
Criticizing the ability it will give people to carry guns without the proper background checks and training. Although Florida does not require a permit to purchase a firearm, gun owners still need to apply for a license to carry a concealed firearm, a process that currently involves specific background checks and training. More than 2.5 million Floridians have obtained a permit to carry a concealed weapon, according to the Florida Department of Agriculture. However, the newly proposed legislation would eliminate the need for these concealed carry permits, allowing residents and non-residents who meet Florida's requirements to carry concealed weapons in the state without needing to apply for a license. Under the bill, initially proposed by Speaker Paul Renner, gun owners wishing to concealed carry would only need to have a valid ID on them while in possession of the firearm. Although the proposed permitless carry would make it easier for Florida gun owners to carry their weapons, the bill would have no effect on the current requirements for purchasing an actual firearm. Therefore, those already prohibited from buying a gun under the current law would still be prohibited. The state's current list of requirements for purchasing a firearm, including a minimum age of 21, would not change. The Florida House passed the bill on March 24 with a 76-32 vote. It was then sent to the Senate for further consideration. On March 30, the Senate passed the bill on a 27-13 vote, bringing the bill one step closer to the desk of Governor DeSantis, who has already expressed that he would sign it. Since the announcement of the bill, local leaders, politicians, and activists, and families of gun violence victims have spoken out from both sides of the aisle with their opinions on the proposed legislation. Local politicians and leaders. In the initial announcement of the bill, Speaker Paul Renner called the move a universal right that applies to each and every man or woman, regardless of race, gender, creed, or background. While Republican leaders like Governor Ron DeSantis have expressed support for the idea, Democrats have argued that the bill could worsen Florida's existing gun violence issue. I just don't feel that's a very responsible thing to do, because training and safety should be number one with all responsible gun owners, said Republican Christine Hunchofsky, a Democrat from Parkland, who was the mayor of the city when 17 people were slayed in the mass slaying at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School nearly 5 years ago.
Certain bump stock devices, like the one used in Las Vegas, are illegal under current law.
It wasn't the fully automatic machine gun that was banned in 1986. It wasn't the bump stock.
Untrained carry is what it is, Hunchofsky added. You are not making our communities, our schools, or our places safer with this. U.S. Rep. Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat from Broward County who previously served as a Parkland City Commissioner and state representative, also spoke out against the measure, saying it proposes more guns as a solution to a problem that didn't exist. Gun safety activists and gun violence victims. Outside of the Florida Capitol, a gun safety group laid out a sea of white roses, one for each person slayed by gunfire in the state last year, 2,849. The display was produced by the group Moms Demand Action, loud in their opposition to Floridians carrying guns without a concealed weapons license. Any attempt to dismantle the permitting system that we have in place will not stand in the state of Florida, and our constituents in the state, citizens don't want that either, said Wendy Malloy of Moms Demand Action. Our lawmakers are not listening to us. Emotions also ran high inside the Capitol, with the permitless carry bill passing another Senate committee. Teenagers have seen their own best friend get slayed in the expletive head, said Seneca Bristol, a high school student from the Gulf Coast. Parents of Parkland slaying victims have also been vocal about their opposition to the bill. Fred Gutenberg, whose daughter Jamie was ended in the 2018 mass slaying, took to social media to speak out against the proposal, saying it would make the state's next mass slaying more likely. Parents Manuel and Patricia Oliver, who lost their son Joaquin in the Parkland massacre, have also expressed their disapproval of the bill, saying it will put more Floridians in danger. Knowing that the person that will own the gun now won't need to register the gun, how is that convenient for the police? Asked Manuel Oliver. How is that convenient for any investigation? Local law enforcement officials. Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey argues that people who want to do harm to others won't be stopped by the permit requirement. Criminals don't get a permit, not one of them. They don't care about obeying the law, Ivey said. Our law-abiding citizens that have immediate right, guarantee, and freedom to protect themselves. Another authoritative voice in favor of the bill is Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri. I've been doing this a long time, Gualtieri said. I have never met anybody that says they are going to go and rob a store, break into a house, and carjack somebody and says, "Wait a minute, let me go get my concealed carry permit first." It doesn't work that way. Gualtieri says law-abiding citizens are going to continue to abide by the law and others will not. Bill would allow carrying concealed guns in Florida without permit. NBC6's Victor Jorges has more on what this would mean, and reaction from both supporters and critics are reacting. How do Florida's gun laws compare to other states? The constitutional carry movement has become popular among conservative states, with about half of the country already allowing permitless carry.
That you said that all assault weapons should be banned. Is that a fair statement?
Partisans at the ATF have really run amok, infringing and trampling on the Second Amendment.
Should the bill pass, Florida will join states like Texas, Georgia, and Alabama and become the 26th state to eliminate concealed weapons permits. Alternatively, states like New York have tried to impose laws that further regulate who can carry a concealed weapon in public. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court struck down a New York law in June 2022 that required people to demonstrate a particular need for carrying a gun in order to get a license to carry one in public. According to the ruling, which expanded gun rights nationwide, the New York law violated the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Omaha mayor bans firearms on city-owned properties. Hours after the Omaha City Council repealed or amended a raft of gun ordinances to comply with a new Nebraska law, Mayor Gene Stothert issued an executive order that will prohibit people from carrying firearms while on city-owned properties. Signs will be posted on other properties beginning this week. Stothert's executive order prohibits firearms at properties owned, leased, or managed by the city. Those properties include buildings, facilities, parks, and public spaces. Law enforcement personnel, trained security members under contract or supervision of a government agency, and people who receive prior approval from Police Chief Todd Schmatterer are exempt from the executive order. The order also exempts people who are using shotguns recreationally at the Harry A. Koch Trap and Skeet facility in Seymour Smith Park near 72nd and Harrison Streets. Stothert's executive order goes into effect. The City Council unanimously voted to repeal 22 gun ordinances and amend 8 other ordinances because they were invalidated by the new state law, which also takes effect Saturday. Repealed city ordinances include a requirement to obtain a permit to buy a handgun, a prohibition on people under 21 possessing guns that can be concealed, and restrictions on carrying concealed weapons without a state permit and transporting certain firearms. Legislative Bill 77 will allow Nebraskans 21 and older to carry concealed weapons without a permit. The bill will apply statewide. City Council President Pete Festerson said he supports the mayor's executive order. "Anything we can do to keep our public places safe and secure, we should be doing," Festerson said. "In addition to the executive order, I'm also pursuing additional measures we can adopt through ordinance." He said he's considering ideas such as regulating ghost guns and high-capacity accessories, and protecting public properties. Festerson had asked the city law department in early August to research those ideas and other new common-sense gun regulations in cooperation with the Omaha Police Department and City Council. Stothert, Schmaderer, and a majority of the City Council opposed LB 77 when it was being debated in the legislature. But now that it will soon be the law, the city was left with no choice but to scrap many of its own gun laws.
Banning a class of weapons that you don't like the look of, not because of functionality.
Under the new rule, these firearm owners will be required to obtain special registration, surrender or destroy their brace.
Given the enactment of LB 77, it's imperative, I think, for the city to not leave those laws on the books, City Attorney Matt Cousy said before the council's vote. "I think it's disingenuous for us to allow our citizens to believe these laws are active." The loosened gun restrictions will likely result in a rise in requests to police that can't be satisfied, Cousy said. "What's illegal today won't be illegal on September 2, Cousy said. "The public may not know that. They're going to be calling the police department for help if they see something that is alarming them. The police are going to show up, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it." Festerson said the affected city gun ordinances helped get about 1,400 illegal guns off the streets last year. People who have been charged under the repealed gun laws will have their cases dismissed after Saturday if they haven't been fully resolved before that date. Nebraska's permitless concealed carry law takes effect amid controversy. Legislative Bill 77 is one of several bills the Nebraska legislature passed this year that takes effect September 2. The bill will apply statewide and invalidate several local gun ordinances. However, city governments in Omaha and Lincoln have taken steps to ban firearms in public spaces in response to the law. Previously in Nebraska, getting a concealed carry permit required passing a criminal background check, paying a $100 fee, and taking an 8 to 16-hour gun safety class. Measures like LB 77 are sometimes called constitutional carry in reference to some gun rights advocates' belief that the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution gives people the right to carry concealed guns without a permit. The bill's introducer, State Senator Tom Brewer of Gordon, had been trying to pass legislation similar to LB 77 since taking office in 2017. In a written statement, Brewer celebrated the law, saying that Nebraskans will no longer have to ask the government for permission to carry a concealed handgun.
If you were serious, you would acknowledge that 96% of mass public shootings happen in an area where guns are banned.
For you want a gun, to do a 1-week training, okay, learn how to use it effectively.
Nebraska's laws are about to more closely resemble our Nebraska values, Brewer said. "Let's show the world what we can do with an extra measure of liberty." LB 77 was one of the more contentious debates during this year's legislative session, with strong opinions expressed by both sides. The bill got mixed reviews from local law enforcement agencies and city governments. Omaha Mayor Gene Stothert and a majority of Omaha City Council members opposed LB 77. Stothert issued an executive order banning firearms on city-owned properties. It also takes effect Saturday. However, the council voted to repeal 22 city gun ordinances and amend 8 others because LB 77 made them invalid. Brewer said the new law will have the biggest effect on Omaha and Lincoln. "We don't want to be doing this," Omaha City Council President Pete Festerson said. "It's required by the new law." Lincoln Mayor Le'Rion Gaylor Baird signed a similar executive order, banning weapons on city properties including buildings, libraries, and parks. According to a Lincoln press release, similar resolutions were also recently passed by the Lincoln-Lancaster County Public Building Commission and the West Haymarket Joint Public Agency. Dick Clark, legal counsel for the legislature's Government, Military, and Veteran Affairs Committee, said cities have the right to ban firearms in buildings, as does any private property owner. However, he said he's not sure how the orders will hold up legally when it comes to open public spaces, such as parking lots or parks. With city parks, Clark said, visitors must be adequately notified about the restrictions, which could pose a logistical problem. He said signs would have to be posted at every entrance, if not more frequently. I think practically the city might have a problem, Clark said.
To propose regulations to ban all devices that turn legal weapons into machine guns.
Criminals will always find guns.
Absolutely.
And it is the cities with the most restrictive gun policies in the country.
Clark said he viewed Stothard's order as retaliation against gun owners because the city doesn't agree with the legislature's actions. He was not aware of Gaylor Baird's executive order at the time he made that comment. I think it's a dangerous game they're playing, Clark said. Clark said Brewer's office is evaluating whether legislation is necessary to counter the new restrictions, but he is hoping additional bills won't be needed. LB 77 allows people to continue getting concealed carry permits if they want. Brewer said he plans to continue renewing his permit to use in purchasing handguns and while traveling to other states. The new law will not change who is allowed to purchase firearms in Nebraska. An amendment folded into LB 77 added an extra misdemeanor charge if someone carries a firearm while committing certain dangerous misdemeanors, including domestic assault, shoplifting, or stalking. It also will make it a felony on a third offense for people to fail to notify a law enforcement official that they were carrying a weapon. Senator Jane Raybould of Lincoln, a leading opponent of LB 77 during this year's debate, said she believes the law will contribute to a rise in gun violence and has already made some residents feel less safe. It's just another sad day in Nebraska, Raybould said. Raybould had introduced LB 482, which would allow courts to intervene in cases when someone has access to a firearm and is considered to be a danger to themselves or others. Measures like this are commonly referred to as red flag laws. LB 482 stalled in the legislature this year. While Raybould said she is currently discussing options, she doesn't have much hope for her bill or other gun safety legislation, given the legislature's current makeup. Numerous exception. Months after Nebraska's legislature passed a bill allowing most residents older than 21 to carry concealed weapons without a permit, the new law took effect across the state Saturday, with numerous exceptions, particularly in Lincoln. Nebraska's legislature passed the so-called constitutional carry bill in a 33-14 vote in April before Governor Jim Pillen signed it 6 days later, declaring it a great day for our Constitution. Sponsored and championed by Senator Tom Brewer of Gordon, the bill, which became law Saturday, invalidates any local ordinances limiting Nebraskans' ability to own, possess, store, transport, sell, or transfer firearms. While the law nullifies many of the city's gun-related ordinances, including the short-lived City Code that for the past 4 years has required residents who keep firearms in their vehicles to store them out of sight with the doors locked, it does allow property owners to prohibit concealed carrying on the grounds they control. That provision paved the way for Lincoln Mayor Le'Rion Gaylor Baird to sign an executive order mitigating the bill's impact on city property. Omaha Mayor Gene Stothard issued a similar order. Combined, the two orders prohibit weapons from being carried onto city property in Nebraska's two largest cities. In a new release, city officials in Lincoln said Gaylor Baird's executive order ensures weapons remain prohibited in city buildings, at public libraries, and in parks. Gaylor Baird's executive order mirrors a resolution passed this month by the Lincoln-Lancaster County Public Building Commission banning a host of weapons, not just firearms, from property under control of the commission.
Assault weapons do not belong on our streets. An assault weapon was used in Las Vegas to kill 60 people.
Running for president of the United States wanted to strip away our enumerated constitutional rights.
Weapons barred from public buildings include guns, tasers, knives with blades longer than 3.5 inches, any devices that fire propelled objects by a spring mechanism or compressed gases, among other prohibited items intended or likely to cause demise or serious bodily injury. And state law still bars gun owners from carrying firearms into law enforcement offices, jails and prisons, courthouses, polling places on election days, and meeting places for any public governing bodies, including the legislature. State law also bars firearms inside banks, at pro or semi-pro sporting events, public and private schools, and school sporting events, public and private college and university campuses, churches, hospitals, and political rallies or fundraisers. Nebraskans also can't carry guns into bars, liquor stores, or any other business that generates more than half of its income from the sale of alcohol. Brewer's bill, which passed this year after roughly 6 years of work by the senator who repeatedly tried and failed to push through similar legislation after taking office in 2017, also bars residents from carrying concealed guns while or immediately after consuming drugs or alcohol. Carrying a concealed weapon onto a premises where such weapons are banned or while consuming drugs or alcohol would be a Class 3 misdemeanor for a first offense and a Class 1 misdemeanor for any or subsequent violation. The bill's many caveats don't apply to law enforcement officials, and in some instances, private security workers who might carry a concealed weapon while working at a bank or venue, for instance. Though the new law eliminates the previous requirement that concealed handgun carriers participate in training, it does add new responsibilities for gun toters. Anyone carrying a concealed weapon in the state must also carry with them personal identification, such as a driver's license, a state or military ID card, or a passport, and must provide such identification when asked by police or emergency service providers. Those carrying a handgun must also immediately notify law enforcement officers or other first responders that they're in possession of a concealed firearm upon contact with authorities, such as during a traffic stop. In those instances, first responders are allowed to secure the gun or ask the carrier to safely store the gun for the duration of their contact with police or emergency personnel. Failing to carry an ID while carrying a concealed handgun would be a misdemeanor under the new law, regardless of how many times a defendant committed the violation.
Not to condemn all of the actions of those of the Muslim faith because of the actions of a few.
That men and women in this country have the right to defend their own lives.
The law also amended Nebraska's criminal statute that once barred non-permit holders from carrying any deadly weapon, which includes but isn't limited to guns, knives, and brass knuckles. The statute now applies to minors, or prohibited people, who are most often barred from carrying weapons due to prior felony convictions. Brewer's bill also created a new criminal offense, carrying a firearm or destructive device during the commission of a dangerous misdemeanor. Among dangerous misdemeanors, as defined by the law, include stalking, domestic assault, theft by shoplifting, and resisting arrest. Violating that newly defined statute will be a Class 1 misdemeanor for a first or second offense, and a Class 4 felony for any third or subsequent offense. Possession of a firearm, concealed or not, during the commission of a felony is a Class 2 felony. The law's preemption of local gun ordinances drew opposition from city and police leaders in Lincoln and Omaha, who said removing local control over regulating firearms could jeopardize public safety and put law enforcement officers in danger. The most important factor in making these decisions should be public safety and the men and women who serve our community, Lincoln's then police chief, Teresa Ewan, said the day the bill passed in a statement in which she expressed disappointment in the legislature's decision. Police officials had turned their focus to helping residents navigate the changing landscape of the city's gun laws. Lincoln Police Department Captain Todd Kosian urged current and future gun owners who intend to carry concealed weapons to take some sort of firearm training course before doing so, a step that state law used to require. There's a lot of different types of handguns and various firearms out there on the market that are available, and although they might appear to all be similar or the same, there are some subtle differences in their operation, said Kosian, who serves as a spokesman for the police department.
They were assaulted and shot by someone and couldn't defend themselves because their guns were taken from them.
Second Amendment protects firearms in common use at the time and also said this, quote, for lawful purposes like self-defense.
To learn how to use a gun. 1 week training, take this course just like you get a driver's license. Go do it, guys. That's my...
He also urged gun owners to review all of the state's gun laws to ensure compliance. City Attorney Johannes Christie, who in April said the city would have to think about carefully how to legislate the movement of guns locally, declined an interview request. Final thought. It's important to note that this move by the mayor is a response to the state's new permitless carry law. Some argue that such restrictions are intended to make citizens feel safer, but it's crucial to remember that the right to feel safe is not explicitly mentioned in any foundational documents like the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, or Magna Carta. The Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms, and it's worth questioning why governments at various levels are keen on limiting citizens' ability to ensure their own safety. Regardless of one's stance on the Second Amendment, it's essential to defend constitutional rights. Executive orders do not carry weight of law and cannot supersede the United States Constitution. If you want to support the Second Amendment, consider contacting Omaha's Mayor Gene Stothert to express your concerns. Remember, Americans won't easily give up on their Second Amendment rights, and it's essential to uphold these principles. That's all for this video, folks. We'll see you next time.